like a lot of things. And he's losing the plot a bit here because he's getting frustrated. So he walks out, goes down to St. Paul's Square, and he sits on a bench. And on that bench is a down and out guy. And this character is called Colin. And he starts to talk to Colin. So the two of them have the conversation. And when you look at the cover, everybody, on the bench, you've got two blokes. One is Marcus in the oven. The other one is Colin. And yes, his daughter in previous chapters has said to his dad and her dad, when they went on a long walk, hinting at perhaps he should maybe change things. But it's Colin who actually says it on page 134. Maybe it's about time. And that's what I love about this chapter. This is the game-changing chapter. This is the change. This is the turning point, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. It's quite a crucial chapter in Marcus's journey. And I would say, John, that all of the book is fiction, based on observations and things that I'd seen from my own working life, my own working career. But the scene with Colin and Marcus is the only one that's really based on fact, because it actually happened to me. And I was walking back through the city on my way back to my office after a meeting with a client and thought, well, I'll just sit here and stop. And I do, one of the things I shared with Marcus is that I do love St. Paul's Cathedral. I think it's a magnificent building, and, it stands out amongst all the other steel and glass buildings that are springing up across the city skyline. But I really do enjoy St. Paul's, always enjoyed looking at it. And I sat in the garden next to a down and out guy who was drinking his cider and was not looking too well. And I'm quite a gregarious chap, and I'll pretty much talk to anyone. And he started a conversation and we got talking. And that incident, I wouldn't necessarily accelerated my decision to retire, but it was certainly one that had me thinking for a few days about how our lives hinge on certain key events. And the Colin character, his name wasn't Colin. I just picked the name Colin, but the character himself talked about his life and how it had actually changed dramatically after the crash in 2008. And from going from a position of relative wealth, was now ending up sleeping rough on the streets of London, trying to get by as best as he could. And it just summed up to me how frail and vulnerable sometimes our fortune can be, and hinging on certain key events. And I wanted to use that experience that I had and feed that into Marcus's character and experience, so that Marcus understood that actually he was also grateful for everything that his career had given him, but also how frail and fragile and tenuous that position may be. And it's the second instance of someone saying to him, well, Marcus, maybe it's about time. And that's where the title of the book came from, which was a man going through a thought process, scared to contemplate what a different future could look like from this affluence, success, everything that was feeding his ego, to contemplate something different. And as the cover notes on the book say, two people, i.e. Claire and Marcus, trapped in their own worlds. And Marcus is trapped in his world by his wealth, because he doesn't want to relinquish all the things it had given him, but he doesn't see or contemplate what an other future could look like.
He's designing clothes and his brand names.
Yeah.
He has quite an affection for Colin, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he does, because he realizes that there, but for the grace of God, could go a completely different future for him and his children.
I do, and yes, and the reason why I chose chapter 10, because yes, you say it was the second time, but it was the most significant time when it was
Yeah.
actually directly said. That's why I wanted to bring this chapter in. Now, we've had chats before. We've come on live doing the interview here, and I know one of your favourite chapters is chapter 13. And it's your phenomenal chapter, as far as I'm concerned. It's mushroom management.
A mushroom. Right. Okay. Okay.
Now I know from our previous conversation why you put this in there, but because Marcus, everybody really comes off the rails here a bit. You can sense things are going to go wrong. They do. And so, as it's one of your favourite chapters, I'm just going to sit back. You tell us why you put it in the book.
Well, I wanted to have a baseline for how low could someone fall. And I'd already done it in chapter 2 with Claire. And she is caught stealing food from Tesco Express, by only at the self-scanning machine, only scanning a few of the items and just putting the rest in her bag. And at that point, Claire is contemplating the store manager calling the police. What's that going to lead to? Social services being informed and possibly losing her children. She envisages this horrific future. Fortunately, she encounters Lester Primus, the store manager, who takes a view that, well, there must be a really good reason why this young woman with 2 children has done this. And from that point, Claire's trajectory in the book is always on the up. And she starts, her self-esteem grows. She gets a temporary job working with another mother from the school. Her finances stabilize, and she is actually on the up in the book. But Marcus, I wanted to have a slightly different trajectory in the book, and I wanted his to start going down because he's coming from a position of success. He's a very successful partner at the firm, but is equally disenchanted, trapped by his wealth. So I also wanted to bring out a number of other themes, and one was the relationship with his son James. So this crucial meeting for Project Spearmint, which is taking place at the offices of the client in Manchester, gives Marcus the opportunity to go out for a night with his son, who he doesn't see so much of, being at university in Manchester. So he combines the trip to Manchester for this crucial meeting the following day with a night out with his son, who is a fairly free-living individual.
He is.
And is quite happy to indulge his father because his father's paying. And the evening that starts out as a quiet drink in the bar of the hotel then starts to run away downhill. I should just say that in the events leading up to Marcus getting to Manchester, there are also another series of disasters. He punctures his tire on his BMW M5 car, trying to get down the ramp into his flat in London. So he's already money down from his burst tire and that frustration. He gets to Manchester and finds that, not being technically gifted, his online booking at the hotel is actually for the following week, and then can only get a junior suite at an even more inflated cost. So Marcus is already feeling the cost of this. So frustrated, he starts going out with his son, and they go out for a meal to indulge their love of meat. Now, as you referred to earlier on, Marcus's wife Alice and his daughter Olivia, after Christmas, have decided that they need to adopt a much healthier diet and have indulged in a primarily vegan diet, which is a complete anathema to Marcus, who loves all the things, the bacon sandwiches and sausages.
And a good steak.
And a good steak.
Yeah.
As does his son James. So they go out, and of course, alcohol plays a big part in this. But James eggs his father on and persuades his father that one way of enjoying themselves was to carry on drinking and going to a nightclub, Prism, and that taking a few magic mushrooms before they go in might be a way of loosening them up. And of course, all of the alcohol that they've consumed beforehand, on top of a Class A narcotic, starts to distort Marcus's sense of reality. And in a nightclub where there's pounding trance music going on, Marcus's mind starts to warp and then goes on a slippery slope, ending up with him being accused of assaulting a young girl on the dance floor, which he doesn't actually do. It is just a clumsy collision. But as these events can spiral out of control, Marcus ends up being ejected out onto the pavements outside the nightclub in Manchester, falling over and on his face, sort of bursting his nose, having a chronic nosebleed. And the worst part of all of this, and this is a thing on social media, it was just a reference to how many events in people's lives are captured now with photographs on phones and posted on social media. Marcus doesn't do social media, but his son James does.
And he puts it on social media.
So James is already posting pictures of his father and his luscious, blood oozing steaks. And he's obviously taken a picture of his father lying in a gutter in Manchester, posts these on Instagram. And who follows James on Instagram? Well, his sister Olivia does. And Olivia shows the pictures to his mum. So the retribution from Marcus's daughter and his wife is going to come the next day. But it's actually to show that at that point, Marcus really does reach the low point in his life, in that only a few hours ahead is a significantly crucial meeting to win this large piece of work. And Marcus is in the worst possible shape of his life to try and deliver this.
He is, everyone, but we're not going to go there. If you want to know what's going to happen, read the book. Neil, we've already said you're a great cook, and so is Marcus. So let's go to, because I think both of us like this chapter. Ready, steady, cook. Chapter 15, everybody. Chapter 15, everybody. And so you've got Marcus Mason. Yes, the team at the firm, they're doing their usual business stuff. They're trying to put the Spearmint contract together for the Spearmint 2 project. They're trying to lower the cost of the fees, the £10 million fee to gain this contract. But whilst that part is in this chapter, the chapter isn't about that, everybody. It's about Gavin's idea of bringing Marcus to Claire's flat and for those two to cook her a meal. This is what it's about. Now, you might think, well, Gavin's relationship with Marcus, is he gay? Is he celibate? Does Marcus aware of what Gavin's thinkings are? What's going on here? There's a whole lot going on here. But this is about the meal, and this is where Marcus and Claire meet for the first time. Tell us how you put this chapter together, because it's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Well, all of the chapters in the book have, I try to make them sort of fairly topical bylines. And obviously, Ready, Steady, Cook is a cooking show where people, cook with, cook for people on limited ingredients and that sort of thing. But the whole idea behind it is Gavin thinks that a nice night where Claire is made to feel special, she has a very limited circle of friends, none of whom ever cook for her. She's had a very rough 2 years where she's contemplated suicide several times, hence the reason why she's under why social services are keeping a fairly close eye on her. And Gavin can see that Claire could do with a lift. He also really likes his cooking friend from his flat, Marcus, and thinks that the combination of the two meeting each other would be good for both of them for slightly different reasons. Now, Marcus is quite reticent about, well, meeting this person? What's it going to be like? You know, and am I going to be safe going to her flat in that particular area?